Good afternoon, folks. This is Lonnie Quinn with the Small Business Administration. Today we're doing a presentation on the SBA programs and services. So I work for the SBA in Florida. We are a federal agency, one of the smaller federal agencies, but our role is to help small businesses. So I'm going to talk about our programs here today. If you have any questions, there's a box for Q&A. Feel free to put your questions in the Q&A. So I work for the Small Business Administration. We're a federal agency, one of the smaller federal agencies, and our role is to help small businesses. So we have 4 major programs going from left to right, and I'll touch on each of these in detail. So there's free business counseling, SBA guaranteed business loans, disaster loans, and then federal government contracting. We have some other programs that I'm going to be talking about too, but those are our major programs. So let's start with these. There are some entities that we sponsor that do consulting and counseling for small businesses. The great news is that you don't have to pay them. They're already being paid. In this case, the Small Business Development Center, or SBDC, is sponsored by a grant from the SBA. They're also sponsored by their host organization, which is typically one of the universities here in Florida. On the west coast of Florida, there's Florida Gulf Coast University in Fort Myers. There's also Florida State University. University of South Florida in Tampa. But the SBDC is the largest SBDC network in the country. The consultants are all paid professional consultants. The great news is you don't have to pay them. Again, they're being paid by the SBA grant and also by the university system. In the lower left, it shows their sweet spots, or the things that they really focus on. So they're the best consultants for an existing business or someone who really wants to grow their business. So they have some special programs related to growth acceleration. So let's say, for example, maybe your business is doing $1.5 million in sales right now, and you want to take it up to 2 million. They have some special tools and programs that can help you do that. They also have some really good tools related to marketing and financial analysis. And then most of them have some former bankers involved who can help you as far as trying to get loans. Another entity we sponsor is Women's Business Centers. So there are 3 of them in South Florida, one in Tampa, one in Palm Beach, one in Melbourne. And they too have paid professional consultants. The good news is that, again, they're being paid by a grant from the SBA and also from their host organization. You don't have to be a woman to get help from the Women's Business Centers, although about 80% of their clients are women. Another entity we sponsor is SCORE. So SCORE is sponsoring this particular webinar. SCORE is a group of volunteer mentors. Most of them are retired, but they're all successful business people, men and women, who now want to give the community by coaching you on starting a business. I encourage you to go to the website there in the middle, www.score.org. They have some excellent workshops that take place live. They also have a huge library of workshops on many different topics, including marketing, bookkeeping, financials, many different topics to help you start and grow your business. Another entity that we sponsor is the Veterans Business Outreach Center, or also known as the VBOC. So there's one of those. It's up in Panhandle, Florida, although they do cover the entirety of Florida. On the right side, it shows their sweet spots, or the things they do the best. So that includes pre-business plan workshops, feasibility analysis related to should I start this business, and things like that. Pre-business planning, and then also startup exercises. But they also help existing businesses too, and they're catered to helping veteran business owners. Another entity we sponsor is U.S. Export Assistance Centers. So U.S. Export Assistance Centers, there are about 6 of them here in the state of Florida. They are manned by personnel from the Department of Commerce and also from my agency, the SBA. And one of the great things about Florida is this is a great place to export from. So if you want to sell outside of the US to the Caribbean, to South America, to Africa, to Europe, this is a great place to export from. There are a lot of really good resources to help you, including this one, the US Export Assistance Center. So let's say, for example, maybe you are a manufacturer of carbon fiber products and you're looking for customers outside of the United States. If you contact the U.S. Export Assistance Center, they can help you identify customers in other countries. They can also help you from getting yourself in trouble and in violating any rules or possibly selling to the wrong trading partner. So they could help keep you getting into trouble that way. But if you think about it, most customers in the world are outside of the United States. I'm not sure what percentage of the world population is in the U.S. I'm guessing it's probably less than 10%. It's probably more like 5% of all the world population is in the United States. So there are a lot of customers outside of the U.S. that you could potentially be selling to. And these folks can help you with that. Let's change topic. So is something else the SBA is involved with is finance and financing your business. So in this case, the SBA doesn't loan money directly, but we do the lending through banks and financial institutions. Different ways that you can use the loan are typical business expenses for launching, growing, or repairing a startup business, or starting or purchasing a small business. Not all of our lenders lend to startups. Some of the lenders have their own requirements. And in some cases, they only lend to businesses that have been in existence for 2 years or more, but that's not true for all banks. So there are some banks that will lend to startups. And there are some specialized lenders that lend for buying a piece of property or a building or a large piece of equipment. We have a special loan program just for that. So some of the things you need to prepare if you're going to go talk to a banker about a loan are things like a business plan. So I encourage you to have a business plan anyway, but our resource partners such as SCORE, the SBDC, they can help you prepare a business plan. They're not going to write the business plan for you. They can help coach you through the process and development of that business plan. The great thing about a business plan is it forces you, even if you're not going to talk to a banker, it forces you to look at many different aspects of the business that you may not have thought about if you didn't have that business plan, such as location, competition, marketing plans, financials, financial projections. There are a lot of different things that a business plan can help you with just to make sure that you're doing your homework before you start your business. Other things to take to the bank that most bankers are going to require are expense sheets, financial statements, so both existing financials and projections into the future about your financials, because they want to know that you're profitable. They also want to know that they're going to get paid back on the loan. So you need to be able to show that you can pay back the loan, that you have sufficient working capital to do that. So there are two major programs that we have for SBA loans. One is called a 7A, offered through most banks in Florida. Terms are 25 years for real estate, 10 years for equipment, 7 years for working capital. Those may seem like very long terms, and they are. And the reason they're so long is to help you from a working capital perspective, make it easier for you to make that monthly loan payment. On the bottom, 504 loans, those are offered through a certified development company. And therefore, things like buying a building, buying a piece of property, buying a big piece of equipment. Terms on those loans are typically 10 years and up to 20 years. And again, the reason they're so long is to make it easier for you to make that payment. There are also micro loans out there and community advantage loans. So micro loans are typically from $5,000 to $50,000. Community advantage loans are typically from $50,000 to $250,000. So there are some other entities that are typically nonprofits that offer these types of loans. The microloans are usually going to have a little higher interest rate. They're going to be unsecured loans, meaning that there's no collateral involved. But the interest rate typically is going to be between 8 and 13%. So that's higher than you would pay for a conventional loan, but it's still much cheaper than you would pay for credit cards, which is a lot of people get started in business. So there's a link at the bottom of this slide to get a copy of this. I'm going to give you my email address. And so if you want a copy of this presentation, I can send you a PDF copy of the presentation. I'll give it to you at the end of this presentation. Another program through the SBA, this is a grant program called Small Business Innovation Research, or SBIR. So I get calls about grants all the time, and unfortunately there aren't grants for the federal government that are few and far between, except through this program. So this program is specifically for companies that do research and development. So that's not everybody, but it is a pretty generous program for those who do research and development. The way it works is the federal government has different agencies that have different problems, and they're looking for small businesses to do some research and development to help them solve the problem. And they offer grants to the small businesses to do the R&D, to do the research. Let me give you an example. There was one from a couple of years ago where the Marine Corps was looking for a small business to create a portable water filtration device that the Marine Corps could take out into the field and use in rivers, ponds, lakes. As you know, generally speaking, you can't go to a river, a pond, a lake and drink right out of it without getting violently sick and possibly killing you. So, you know, we all saw the old Western movies where they used to drink out of the lake or the river, but that's usually that's not a safe thing to do. Anyway, so what happens is different federal agencies, they put out requests for proposals at the SBIR.gov site. There's a link at the bottom there. They have requests for proposals that have descriptions of the different problems that they want solved. And then they're looking for you, small businesses, to submit a proposal on how would you solve this particular problem. So they look at the proposals for the small businesses, and they try to figure out, okay, which one looks like it has the best probability of success? Which one has the best probability of creating a prototype to solve this problem? So they pick that one entity, and then that entity gets a grant to actually try to create a prototype. And if they're successful in creating a prototype, then they apply, that same small business can apply for a secondary grant to actually commercialize their prototype and to create, to create many of these things. One of the great things about it is that if you are successful, you already have a customer. The federal government already told you they're going to buy it. If you can create a solution, they'll buy the solution from you. The other great thing is that if you come up with any patents or any proprietary information, you get to keep those patents. The federal government doesn't take them away from you. So it's a great program with millions of dollars being passed out every year to small businesses. All right, moving on. Another thing that my agency, the SBA, is very involved with is federal government contracting. So who is the biggest spender on the planet? Our federal government. Our federal government spends roughly $500 billion every year on contracts. You look at the middle of this slide, in FY 2019, Uncle Sam awarded small businesses nearly $133 billion in federal contracts. So roughly a quarter of all federal contracts go to small businesses. And then there are quite a few more where small businesses are subcontractors on those larger businesses. There are some certifications that can help you with some of the small business set-asides. And there's a link, there's two links on this slide at the bottom. One is the one to get certified at certified.sba.gov. And the other one is information about federal government contracting. You can get self-certified as a small business. That's another type of certification. Most of the other certifications are done through my agency, the SBA. So on the left side of the screen are the different types of small business set asides and the goals. So the goal for small business with the federal government is 23% of all contracts to small business, 5% to small disadvantaged businesses, 3% to service disabled vets, 5% to women-owned small businesses, and 3% to HUBs. Hub zone are historically underutilized business zones. They're typically areas that are economically depressed. They're in just about every county in Florida. On the right side, far right side, is the actual numbers. So on the left side is the goals. On the right side is the actual numbers for fiscal year 2019. That's the most recent data that we have. But as you can see, the goal was 23% for small businesses. The actual number was 26.5%. Well over a quarter of all contracts went to small businesses. Small disadvantaged businesses, the goal was 5%. They more than doubled that number. Veteran goal was 3%. The actual number is 4.3%. Women-owned small businesses goal was 5%, and it was slightly over that goal. And then the only goal that wasn't hit was for Hub Zone. They've never hit the Hub Zone goal, and there are reasons for that, but I'm not going to get into that in this particular section. There are some entities out there that can help you if yours is a company that has a product or a service that can be sold to the government. So this particular program isn't an SBA program, but it's something I think you should know about. So if you have a product or service that you're selling commercially that you could probably sell to either the federal government, state government, local government, city government, quasi-government, schools, prisons, then the Procurement Technical Assistance Center can help you, also known as the PTAC. So the PTAC is a group of paid professional consultants that work here in Florida that help coach people on selling to different levels of government. They are funded through a grant from the Department of Defense. There's a link on the bottom to how to get connected to a PTAC consultant. Usually there's a little bit of a wait to get in with them because there's a huge demand to get help from these, but they're an excellent resource. They also do quite a few workshops on different topics related to selling to government. Another thing the SBA is very involved with is disaster assistance. Anytime there's a physical disaster or an economic disaster, the SBA is involved. As long as it's a declared disaster. As you know, we got hit by 2 hurricanes in the last, 6 months. The worst one was Hurricane Ian hitting the Fort Myers area in the old Southwest Florida. But within the first 3 months following Hurricane Ian, the SBA had approved $1.5 billion in disaster loans in the state of Florida. So one of the things that I'm proud of about my agency is that we're usually, whenever there's a disaster, we're usually very quick to set up responses and response teams to help people get disaster loans. You don't have to be business to get a disaster loan. Could be anybody who's been economically impacted, including small businesses, homeowners, renters, anyone who's been impacted by that disaster. Another program we have is the Office of the Ombudsman and Office of Advocacy. The National Ombudsman works for small businesses to assist them with excessive federal regulatory issues. So that's more of a long-term thing, but if you work in an industry with stupid regulations, then you can work with the National Ombudsman to hopefully correct some of that. And then the Office of Advocacy is the independent voice for small businesses in the federal government. So they help in, maybe you have a situation, maybe you are you own a mechanic's shop, and maybe one of your employees accidentally spilled this drum of oil, and the EPA found out about it, and now they want you to get it cleaned up, and they give you 10 days to get it cleaned up, or they're going to shut down your shop. So one of the things you can do is you can work through the Office of Advocacy to work with the EPA to get them to mediate on your behalf. So you probably couldn't get the EPA to stop, or the IRS or any other government agency, but you get them to negotiate or mediate to come to terms on some more reasonable solution for a time frame for getting this problem fixed. So that's the purpose of our alpha advocacy. These are some tools from the SBA for your business. Through the SBA Learning Center. If you go to sba.gov, there's a lot of great stuff on, and I'm not just saying that because I work for the SBA. There really is a lot of great stuff and a lot of good information on the SBA's website. But this is one of those tools through the SBA Learning Center. As you can see, a lot of different topics here for both startups and existing businesses. This is a new program, relatively new program called Ascent. Ascent is an interactive digital platform packed with resources women business owners need to set and achieve their business goals. Ascent is designed for the missing middle, growth-oriented women entrepreneurs who are beyond the startup phase and already generating revenue, yet looking to grow and scale. So most jobs in America are actually created by small businesses that are in that missing middle that they're talking about here. So there are businesses usually whose revenues are somewhere $1 million or more, or the business owner wants to grow the business. And so that's where most jobs are created. They aren't created by even though large businesses do create a lot of jobs, most jobs are created by the group that they're referring to here, the missing middle, those larger small businesses where the entrepreneur or business owner wants to grow the business. Anyway, this particular program has a lot of really good tools, a lot of good resources, a lot of really good information to help educate you. And even though it's focused on women entrepreneurs, anybody can use this, can use these tools. Men, women, doesn't matter, startups, existing businesses. But even though it's tailored particularly to women business owners in the missing middle, there's still lots of information in here that can help any business. All right. Other things we have going on, if you go to our events calendar at the bottom of the screen, you will see that there are many events like this webinar that we're doing today, but there's a lot of different things going on from different entities here in Florida on this particular link. You don't even have to be in Florida. If you go to that link, it'll ask you for your zip code and it'll tell you about things going on in your area. But you can do a search for across the nation for different types of webinars. If you want to learn about federal government contracting, you don't see anything in your area, you can go search in your area. And just show you the variety of things going on this events calendar. From top to bottom on that screenshot, first one, how to become bankable. So that one has to do with finance. Second one, focusing your marketing. So it talks about marketing your business. Third one, doing business with the federal government. So that has to do with government contracting. LLC versus S Corp, which is right for you. So that has to do with taxation and your business organization and how to set up your business. So my point is there's a lot of variety there. All right. Here is 9 internationally renowned businesses. And they all have a couple of things in common with you. First, they all started out small. That's the one thing they all have in common with you. Nike, upper left, one guy started out selling shoes out of his garage. He was importing them and then selling them out of his garage. In the middle, Apple. Apple Computer was the most valuable company in the world up until they were passed up by Amazon, by other companies since then. But they're still in the top 10 of the most valuable companies in the world. Anyway, it started out as 2 guys in a garage building computers. So all these companies started out small. The other thing they all have in common is every one of them got help from the SBA when they first started out. So they either through an SBA guaranteed loan or through one of our other programs or through coaching through one of our SBA resource partners, every single one of these companies got help from the SBA. And that's it. So I told you if you want a copy of the presentation, send me an email. My email address is right there at the bottom, leon.koyama@sba.gov. There's my office number, 305-536-5844. So feel free to call me at any time about anything. And I'm going to look in the Q&A and see if there are any questions. If there are any questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A. So I'll leave that open if there are any questions. If not, I want to thank SCORE for sponsoring this session. And again, send me an email. I'll send you a copy of the presentation. Okay, so there's a question here. If I apply for one certification, do I need to apply for others? I'm guessing you're referring to federal government contracting and certifications. So a couple of things related to that. One is that the federal certifications are only good with the federal government. So there are state certifications such as MBE, WBE. I don't know of all of them, but anyway, those are good with the state, but they're not good with federal, and federal are only, unfortunately, the different entities don't recognize the others. The other thing is that these certifications are all only good for that one thing. So if you're a service-disabled veteran, for example, and you get the certification, it's only good for that one certification. It's not good for the other certificates, except as a small business. So as a small business, you can get self-certified as a small business. But for all the other certifications that I talked about, HubZone, service-disabled veteran, women-owned small business, 8A, which is socially and economically disadvantaged, those are all separate certifications, and you need to apply for each one of those individually. So I hope that answered your question. Are there any other questions? What is the cutoff for SBA services? What determines if a business is larger than a small business? So there are two answers to that. The general answer is a company of 500 or more employees is a large business, but that isn't the technical definition. The technical definition is based on your NAICS code, North American Industrial Classification Standard Code. So every industry out there has its own NAICS code, or North American Industrial Classification Standard, or NAICS code. Every industry, so there are several thousand of those, and you could look those up on, you could just do a Google search, NAICS, NAICS codes, to find out one for your company. Most companies, smallest company probably performs under 3 or 4 different NAICS codes, depending on what you do. But each one of those NAICS codes has a size standard to it. And that's another thing you can Google size standards. So once you know the NAICS, you can Google the size. But let me give you an example. For commercial construction, the NAICS code is 23220. The size for that, I believe, is $3.5 million. So what that means is if your average revenues over the last 3 years are $33.5 million or more, then you are a large business.